Mr Deputy President, and it pains me. It pains me greatly to have to rise to speak to this motion today, because to think that Australia is now paying for some of the most expensive energy in the world is a complete and utter tragedy. It is a complete and utter tragedy, and it is the combination of decades of mismanagement of our energy system, and no doubt, by none other than AEMO themselves, because we have this half-breed Frankenstein setup of an energy market in this country, where we have the federal government, the state government and the private sector all responsible for electricity. And of course, if anyone that works in the private sector knows, when everyone is in charge, nobody's in charge. So, if we want to actually fix this, we should go back to the origins of our constitution and actually put the states back in charge of energy. And the reason why I'm very passionate about that is when I grew up in the great state of Queensland, Queensland had some of the cheapest energy in the world, and that was under the great leadership by Sir Joe Bjelke-Petersen. And I know that some of you go, "Oh yeah, but what about the brown paper bags?" Well, let me tell you, the black tape, the green tape and the red tape is just a legitimised form of corruption in this country, and it's out of control. It's out of control. And we got the cheapest energy because we opened up coal mines. We used our natural resources. And yet here, today, we refuse to use our natural resources. We would rather import renewables from foreign countries than actually use our own energy here in this country. And I've referred to this many times before in this chamber. Near my hometown of Chinchilla, at the Kogan Creek Power Station, is 400 million tonnes of coal. That is right there, just below the surface, and the only cost of it is actually getting it out of the ground and transporting it about 1 to 2 kilometres to the actual power station. There's also another pad there where you could build another turbine to actually power Queensland forward. But do we do that? No. And I'd like to commend the media statement put out by the member for Fairfax, where he called on the Labor government to scrap its ideological approach to energy. And I can't agree with that more, because it is this ideological approach that somehow CO2 is going to cause global boiling that is at the heart of this problem. It is at the heart of this problem. And for the last 3 decades or 4 decades, we have been living in the Middle Ages, where knowledge has been completely thrown out the door and replaced by fear and fear-mongering and superstition. Now, the reason why we live in such a great country here and across the world with such a high standard of living is because of the Enlightenment, when scientists actually went and put down and defined the laws of science. And those laws of science demonstrated cause and effect, and they quantified cause and effect. And if we're going to put this climate change rubbish to bed, we need to go back to basics. We need to sort out our education system, and we need to start teaching maths and science again, because this whole so-called crisis can easily be quantified, because CO2 is a gas. And is there a law for the relationship between gas and temperature? Yes, there is. It's called the ideal gas law. It's called PV equals nRT, pressure times volume equals the number of moles by the ideal gas constant by the temperature. Now, what I want to know is why no one has ever discussed this before. And it's very easy if you actually use that algorithm. If carbon dioxide increases by 100 parts per million, that is 1 in 10,000th increase. So all you've got to do is go 1 in 10,000 by the current temperature of the Earth, which is 287 degrees Kelvin, and you get a rise of 0.0287 degrees. And all you have to then do is take the specific density of carbon, which is carbon dioxide, which is 1.53, times that by 2.87, and you will get a formula. For every 100 parts per million increase in carbon dioxide, you will increase the temperature of the Earth by 0.043 degrees. Now, I ask you, given that the carbon dioxide has increased by 140 parts per million, or about 0.06 degrees in the last 140 years, is that a small price to pay? I think that is a price worth paying to have brought billions and billions of people out of the dark ages and into the world we live in today. Because if we're going to stop this rubbish and go back to baseload energy, we need to kill the myth that somehow climate change is going to cause global boiling and bring the world to an end.
Thank you, Senator Rennick.
Authorised G. Rennick, LNP Chermside.